Welcome to the summit, Recognizing Spontaneous Living Now. And I can introduce you to Sailor Bob Adamson and Kat Adamson. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And you point to our nature, what we are. And I've been reading your books, The Present Awareness, and I've also been reading Sailor Bob, pointing to non-duality. Yeah. So can you show the books again together?
Yeah, I'll see if the camera can actually see them clearly.
Yeah,
they're a little bit upside down. I mean, I can see the mirror view of them.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. And yeah, I must say I love both books, and the pointers are so brilliant in both books. So I'm very thrilled to talk about that. And because that spontaneous living that we are, can you speak about that first?
Well, what's forming this pattern and expressing through it as it is life itself. And life is spontaneous. We think it has a beginning and an end, but it is just the same natural functioning. It's rolling the earth around the sun, causing the tide to come out. It's beating our hearts, breathing us. It's doing all the functioning itself. And we think it's time bound, but time is just a mental concept when you investigate it. There's no such thing. It's always this presence, awareness of presence right now. And doesn't that apply to you right now? Aren't you aware of present?
Yeah.
I am and Kat is. We're that awareness of presence, or presence awareness, is the very life itself, not the person or the body, mind. That's the expression that expresses through is a vibrating pattern of energy, which we call the body mind. But it's the life in it. The life itself is that presence awareness. And you and I and everything else are life. And what the Christ said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. He wasn't talking about himself, he was talking about that sense of presence. If it wasn't there, the knowing of being presently aware, you wouldn't be able to say anything at all. The corpse can't say anything. The life has gone out of that body. But where does the life go? It all comes from the basic space and the silence and the stillness, which is a screen in which everything appears. And you can postulate to think of anything outside of space. What would it be in? You and I, though we believe we are these pattern shapes and forms, we are the very life essence that's forming everything. As I say, the trees, the flowers, the planets, the stars, the bodies, the minds, everything is that cognizing emptiness, which they call in Buddhism. They say it's a cognizing emptiness. We think we are cognizing the emptiness, but we're not. It's the emptiness itself, suffused with that intelligence energy that's doing the cognizing. He made the statement that emptiness is form. So all these forms, you and me and everything else, are that emptiness which are vibrating in the pattern shapes and forms. Because he turns it around the other way, emptiness is form, and the form can be nothing other than the emptiness. So it's emptiness talking to emptiness.
Yeah. And
everything is that.
Yeah. And that's also what you call the intelligence energy, right? It's what we are. And so Sailor Bob, you spent a lot of time with Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj in India back in 1976. And so a lot of your, is that where it broke through for you about who you actually are?
Yes. That's where it all happened.
Yeah, because you also, you study some Christianity, Buddhism, like a lot of different, many different religions, spirituality, and but it's very basic, right? It's here and now what we are, and we actually don't need to study anything, right? But because we are already it, and it's just a matter of recognizing it. Yeah,
That's the matter. That's right. That's the truth. Matter of recognizing, recognizing. It is a cognizing emptiness itself. The emptiness has that capacity of cognizing, and we believe we are the separate entities, the individuals, the persons, but we're not. So we have to, or we do, we recognize that we are that same emptiness, the same life. It's the one life. That's what they call it, non-duality, not two. It's all one essence, happening, shaping, forming, experiencing and expressing as everything in this manifestation. Now, when you look at it, you're a thing, I'm a thing, the tree's a thing, the flower's a thing, the space is a thing, the sky's a thing, everything is things, all appearing in that basic space of phenomena, which we call no thing, or we call it, put the word on it, nothing. But that's the wrong expression, because nothing means zero, zilch, void, emptiness. So it's not that, it's no thing, meaning it's no pattern, no shape, or no form, which is, though it is appearing to be so, but no pattern, shape, or form is the reality. It's only appearing to be so, and that's what they call it, the phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. We taken the appearance to be real and started from the fact that we are this persons, this persona. The word person comes from persona, the mask. So we've got a mask of concepts which we hide, which hide our true nature, and take ourselves to be this mask of concepts.
yeah. And in your book, you also write about, for example, a corpse. When it's a corpse, when you're dead, there's no movement, but life force is what gives the body life. So when we are alive, we have this life force, and that's actually what we are, right? It's not really the body, it's the life force.
Yes, exactly. Yes, the corpse can't do anything, but it's the life energy that animates, vibrates and patterns as a corpse. It's that life energy is doing a lot. So
The corpse is not excluded. The body is not excluded. It is the waving life, patterning, shaping, vibrating into the body as well. But primarily, it is the life essence. Only it expresses as the forms.
Yeah, it's like one without a second, right? So all the appearances are also that.
Yes. And it's beautiful. You gave that beautiful title of spontaneous, spontaneity in that life, spontaneity of the unfolding. And when Bob is saying to recognize that you are seeing, hearing, you are really being lived. The planets are rolling around. This is all spontaneous unfolding of that life essence. It's like there is no doer in anything. The sun doesn't do the shining. You don't do the heart beating. It is just spontaneously happening, unfolding.
there's nothing you can separate. So it's what they call absolute. What can you add to the absolute? Nothing. Wouldn't be absolute. What can you take away from it? Nothing. It wouldn't be absolute. So it's all absolute, just as it is. Or the Buddhists call it the great perfection. Perfect is just the same as absolute. You can't add anything to the perfect. You can't take anything away from the perfect. So it's all that absolute, non-dual, one without a second, not two. Two is duality, me and the other. It's not even one, it only appears to be. But it's all that immediacy that's happening right now. Presently, you're not unaware right now in this presence. You are aware. Sat, Chit, Ananda, Nama, Rupa, the five factors. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, Ananda is loving to be, Ananda, Rupa, they say, is name and form. They say Nama, Rupa is Maya, illusion. It's only apparent, part of the phenomenal manifestation. Are you existing right now? Yes, you know. Are you conscious? Yes. You're not unconscious. So you're not unaware. So you are aware. And you're loving to be. So you are that already. What's the search all about?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like we cannot deny that. I cannot deny I'm here. I'm aware. Yeah, I exist, you could say also, right? It's like it's but that's basically it, right? You also say full stop. After that, it's basically full stop, right? Because if you add anything to that, then it's already something. And so it's just full stop. Even saying I am is already too much, right? Because it's before the words, it's before the thoughts about this.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you've got a good grasp of it.
Beautifully said. Absolutely. Yes.
Oh yeah, it's from your books. That's why I can say it.
No, but it's yours. You say it. You understand it. You're living it.
Yeah, and from your book, I love how you sailor Bob, right? And then the back pointing to non-duality, and how you sailor every letter, SAILORBOB. For every letter you have all these pointers that start with that letter.
Yeah, they actually hold bags. Every letter has attached bag, and this bag is full of pointer. Like you have the sky, you have the suffering, you have the silence. All that connects with S is the anagram. That kind of, the intention was to make the pointers even more like appealing as an anchors to the mind. Whatever you see, anything, you look up and the sky is always there, and it can work, it can bring up the reminder about the sky-like awareness. So because there was, you know, this is a transcript, the presence awareness that John Wheeler did probably about, gosh, maybe nearly 20 years ago. It's a gorgeous little book. It's beautiful. It's just really verbatim Bob speaking. And there was few other books. Gilbert did another, What's Wrong with Right Now, and One Essence, quite a few transcripts. But this is not a transcript. This is a structure which is aiming at really anchoring those pointers so they pop in, not just reading and finding the understanding, but really having it in those bags to be able to be used whenever they're necessary, because it really is always a stepping back of the conceptual cloud of chatter into the recognition of that silence, stillness, sky, that all the pointers on S, but there are pointers on every other letter. Always pointing to the same one. Spontaneity, I think I have that as a pointer too, because I love that. That was one of the first one that I heard from Bob.
Yeah, and I really like the play with words that you did. It's so beautiful. Like after each paragraph, you lead into the next word, and it's a wonderful book. And you really go into depth with everything, and lots of yours, Sailor Bob. A lot of your quotes throughout time are also in the book, and it's all about, you know, it's pointing to that, and it's really a wonderful book. Yeah.
Thank you. It's all about his message, because the way I find it, I used to be a seeker as well, and I used to be all over the world and also explore different paths. But the way he is presenting it, I just can't see any possibility to make it even simpler and more elegant. It's just, I'm just, because it was the way it actually, you know, penetrates through this one. So I have raving preference for that type of pointing. I have great preference for him as a messenger also.
Yeah.
That's so it is really about him and his teachings. It's just few examples of people who've seen through that little stories that, you know, which pointer particularly penetrated and opened the minds. The real people, they just names changed. And yeah, it is aimed to actually just move the heart, something that we all innately know, and just go through that veil of conceptual stories that we have, that I'm the doer, this is my fault, or I'm unworthy, and strike that note, that chord in the heart, which we all know because we all were babies once, we all were before the words and beyond the words. So this is something that is undeniable, as you highlighted initially. Yes, I am. There is existence. I am is already a translation, but the existence is there. Now I put the concepts on it. I am the body. No, that's not true. That's a concept. That's the limitation. But the existence is undeniable. It's always there.
Yeah.
Start from the fact that you already are the absolute.
You are.
There is nothing separate from it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's also a big relief. Also that everything spontaneously happens, so there's actually not cause and effect, although the mind likes to make up that. And so it's like, wow, it's just happening, and it's a mystery how that's happening, but it's so beautiful, because so many worries goes away too, you know, like all the worries about should I do this or that, or it's like it naturally happens. It's always the mind that comes afterwards and says, comment on everything, right? The translator, as you talk about books also, right, is translating everything, but it's actually happening before the mind can come in and translate anything.
Yes, beautifully said. And everything is interconnected and interdependent. That's why I think Nisargadatta first told you that, you know, because everything has infinite amount of causes, we call it uncaused. And because it is uncaused, it is spontaneous. Because like every single thing, every word, every thought that you're going to have in 5 minutes or 1 hour is going to be totally dependent on infinite amount of environmental factors that are interconnected and interdependent, which means all is one. It's totally interconnected. It's one. Everything, the weather, the diet, the food, the parents, the past, the traumas, the memories, all of it is not just like, okay, I lift the glass and I drop the glass and it falls, cause and effect, no spontaneity. No, the cause for the glass is infinite. The cause for dropping is infinite. It's all spontaneous. It's all impossible to actually process through that little computer in the head. So leave it a mystery and marvel at it.
Yeah. And that's why the mind cannot understand it, right? It's just impossible.
Yeah. Impossible.
Yeah, you can't grasp it with a thought or a concept, and you must recognize that, because how many words were you born with? You weren't born with any words. And the first couple of years of your life, you lived without words. You didn't learn words till you were about 2, 2.5, somewhere around that age. Some might have been earlier, some later. No set date to it. But prior, so you were living without, prior to the thoughts, prior to the word. That's the point that points to it. So when did you begin? You can't say there's a time when you are not, and you can't say there'll be a time when you will not be. Time itself, when you look at it, is a mental concept.
Yeah.
Where is the time when you don't think? Pause the thought and the past disappears. Pause the thought and there is no future. So it only exists when the thought is there. No thought, no time.
Yeah, like Sailor Bob, you also had this quote that what is wrong with now, you don't think about it.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, have a look at that. What's wrong with right now if you don't think about it? You can't say it's good, you can't say it's bad, you can't say it's life, you can't say it's death. You can't say it all. That's how you were before we learnt the words. You were functioning, you know. Mother was feeding and looking after us, but the life was there, the livingness was there prior to the thought, prior to the word.
Mm.
Yeah. And this appearance, it's, you know, it's a world of opposites, but that's appearance. It cannot appear unless they're opposites, right? And that
Exactly.
kind of makes sense. And,
Yeah.
and then it's like the mind is also in that world of opposites.
Yes.
Mm.
Mm.
As Shakespeare tells you, 400 or 500 years ago, he says, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So if we're not thinking, how can it be good? How can it be bad? It's just what is.
Mm.
What is means it's unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected, just, and it's not static. It's constantly vibrating, moving. It's always vibrating.
That's the appearance. The appearance is movement.
Yes.
So,
Mm. Like in the dream, it doesn't exist and it does not exist. It neither is nor it isn't. You can dream the whole world when you go to sleep and your body doesn't move off the bed, and in the dream you're walking, climbing, flying, doing all sorts of things. But and the world seems so real. It appears so real. And it is, what is it when you wake up? It completely disappears. And this world, it feels so real, you can touch it, but it is all just the perception interpreted by the mind. It's just the world of perceptions, different sensations, different perceptions.
Word I was trying to think is transient.
Yes.
No, it's all constant changing.
Mm.
Right now, that body that you are is changing right in this moment. Same here. There are cells dying in it, thousands of them dying right in this moment and being replaced. And the cells that are replacing it are suffused with that intelligence energy, the life. Because a skin cell is not going to become a heart cell when it's replaced. Heart cell is not going to become a brain cell.
Mm.
Each cell knows, the innate intelligence suffusing it, knows what to do. It's the same when the body was forming. Innate intelligence was patterning, shaping, and forming it.
yeah.
Spontaneous, transient, always changing. So that does away with the concept of time too, if everything is spontaneous, got no duration. It appears to be duration, beginning and an end. It's all spontaneous. When does now begin? You'll say it's beginning now, but even as you're saying that, it's already changing, it's ending. And when is it ending? Right now. And as it's ending, it's beginning again. So what they call a throb or a seeming movement, a spander, is another name they put on it, a seeming subtle vibration. It's pure, pure intelligence energy. They call it God. I don't use that term because people can get confused with it. And they think God is something superior and apart and separate. And it tells you in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, the Word was God. That's all that God is, the Word we put upon, calling it God. All things were made by Him, by the Word. And that's true. There's not a thing out there that you can say without putting the label or the word on. There was nothing made without the Word.
Oh, in your book, you also mentioned like reasoning, right? We start around 2.5 years old, 2.5, we start to reason. We are taught that, and we label everything, and that's where we kind of get lost in the mind, and we become this I and me that actually doesn't even exist, right? But it's like we're hypnotized into believing there is this me, I, separate from everything else, but that's not true. And then we have to recognize what we actually are now, right? And we can do that right now. It's not.
Yeah.
That's right. It's always immediate. It's timeless, spontaneous.
Mm.
We learn have the capacity of reasoning, and where we learn these words. Instead of questioning the words, we take the words to be real, what our parents tell us. Then we go to school, we learn more words. And the word's not the thing. Take the word water, you can't drink it. The word fire doesn't burn your mouth, you can't cook with it. What's this word I or me? And you see, it's a conceptual image we've got about ourselves, which you put the label on. I'm Bob, the Australian, the good fellow. All concepts are words. The energy of belief goes under, we keep believing in it, and it seems to be the actual. But your dictionary definition is an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. Put your belief to that test, and if they're not the fact, they'll fall apart.
Mhm.
And if false is seen as false, what must you be left with? The truth. And that's the old saying, know the truth will set you free. And what do you need to be free from? Only belief.
Mm.
Yeah,
Free
free from the ego, you could say, or the mind. I mean, the mind is a tool, right? Thinking happens, and that's how we can create. But it's the mind that we use against ourselves, you could say, making up this whole ego that's not there. And we spend so much time and energy on this illusionary ego and person that's not even there. That's kind of where the mind works against yourself, you could say.
Yes.
So, but the mind is a brilliant tool, right? Because sometimes it can be, oh, okay, thinking is not good at all. But anyways, we can't stop thinking. It's going to happen anyway.
That's why it's just a recognition. It's really to recognize that you are already that natural state. You're not your mind. So whether the mind is noisy or the mind is quiet or the mind is, whatever the mind is, you're not the mind. You are the witnessing consciousness, and the mind happened within you. If you recognize that mind as just a vibration of a chatter, you're free from it. You're already recognizing it from beyond the mind.
Right.
That's why it's only a recognition. It's not that we have to do away, let go, drop it, stop it. We can't do anything. But we can stop whatever the obscuration, stop and recognize it. It's rather the non-doing that brings you to the point of relaxation than doing something. Relaxing out of the craziness of the chatter is just breathe out, and it's just, yeah, and you are already that space in which all happens.
I am is the primary thought. It's, when we learn words, parents tell you little Johnny, and you learn I and me. You say, I'm little Johnny. Instead of saying, I am the pure intelligence energy. The parents don't tell you that because they don't know themselves. They haven't rooted it out. So we go on with the false idea, the illusionary pattern. And then they say, I am this person, I am this body, I am this mind. But what is it? You know, if somebody asks you who you are, you'll say, I am. And Nisargadatta says, stay with the I amness. He's not talking about staying with the word. People think he is. He's not solely repeating I am. It's not that. The I am is a sense of presence that translates through the mind as that thought. You're aware of being present, that presence awareness. And somebody asks you, you say, I am. That's the primary thought. And that I am, that word comes from the natural moan of the cosmos, if you like. As they say, it's Om, a vibration of energy. It's broken down instead of Om into I am. And then we take it to be the body-mind rather than seeing it coming from the cosmos, the primary sound. And sound, all sound is a vibration. Vibration is a movement of energies. So all these words are energy, same as the body.
Mm-hmm.
My body. You say my body. Whose body? You say my house, my car, my car. God, who's the me or the my that believes it own it? It's that name, that word, that label. So we say it's me, Bob, I. Oh, that's that I am. But it's not. It's that life essence in which all words, pattern, shapes and forms appear. And without the word, that life essence was there. Take it out of the body and you've got a corpse. That corpse, before it breaks down and disappears, and it's still got eyes, ears, lungs, heart, kidneys, all the organs are there. But what good are they without the life essence expressing through them, utilising those patterns?
Like their aliveness. That's basically it.
Yes.
Or as they put it in the scriptures, being, that it's being, it's knowing, it's loving to be. Satchitananda. And aren't you being right now? And aren't you knowing that you are and you're happy to be? What are you going to search for if you're already there?
So it's so interesting how we think it's something else. So it can't be that simple, but it is that simple and ordinary.
It's that simple that we miss it. And in the scriptures, they call it ignorance. When they say the ignorance, people think, oh, I'm dull, I'm stupid, I don't know. But they don't mean that. They mean we are ignoring that reality, that true nature, and focusing on the conceptual. So that's the ignorance, it's just ignoring, not really recognising and realising what is already before your very eyes. They're in your heart. You are that.
Yeah, you are that. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is the one of the most important pointers that he often starts from. You are already that. You don't have to strive and seek to become, because becoming is not the being. You are already that. You are, and then looking from the, if I take the perspective that I am a body mind with that imagined little human there, some imagined self that now needs to expand or needs to whatever do or away with the mind, that's hopeless. That's totally impossible. From that perspective, that imagined I can never wake up and understand the totality, because this is the mirage. This is the hallucinated phantom. But if I take a stance, I'm already open field of spacious awareness, which gives itself a costume of the body, so it can be conscious of itself, because without the body, there's no seeing, hearing, tasting, thinking. So now I'm space-like awareness, giving myself a little bit of a speaker so I can speak, and my lips, and my vocal cords. So now I'm kind of seeing the glimpses of myself through my expressions, but I am infinitely, inherently that. The mask, the costume, the speaker, the goggles, the capacities that are happening through the transformation of that pure, empty potential through that vehicle of the body. It's like you have electricity and you put it through the torch and you get the light. You put it through the toaster and you get the heat, or you put it through the body and you get seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. But it's infinitely one.
It's the same power that functions in his body mind, yeah.
Absolutely, and the same power that runs the planets around the sun. And you are that power. Only through this little vehicle, you actually experiencing that power translated through that sensory, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. But when the attention goes to thinking, now suddenly even the basic sensory present experiencing get obscured, because thinking is so much more attractive. Now, instead of feeling the temperature, feeling the body, seeing whatever you see out the window, you can imagine worlds and situations and dramas that are not there, but they contain seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, are much more seductive and appealing. So habitually, we live in that imaginary worlds of our narrative. So waking up is first waking up from that imaginary world of thinking into the sensory dream where the world is dreamt as it is, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. And that's already free from suffering and delicious. Because suffering is only when I name things are, oh, they shouldn't be there, they shouldn't have said that, I'm unworthy. Without that labeling, things are just as they are, just like they are for trees and animals and enlightened beings, so-called, if you can even say it. But yeah, and this is still a dream. The body is still being dreamed. The world is still appearing, just like in the dream. But there is no suffering. There is no narrative. In the absence of narrative, there is no self. I can't say that I'm some imagined entity anymore that is residing somewhere there and is unworthy or is not good enough. Can't say it, because even if that narrative will come there, there's no attention going there. Whether there is chatter or there is no chatter, there's no one there to actually really worry about it. If the chatter is there or chatter is not there, life goes on and life is rich and life is basically marveling at itself through this pair of eyes and ears and through every other. But there's just the matter of how clear the seeing is, whether we are seeing through the thick veil of interpretations and the stories and beliefs. And then suddenly there is good and evil, they are after me, they're gonna kill me, they're gonna depopulate the world, I'm not good enough, I should be dead, or that stuff is psychological suffering. That can be recognized as just a noise and discarded, relaxed out of, stepped out of, and laughed. This is kind of cute because every narrative has behind it, there is a deep-rooted intention to care and love. Even if I say in the narrative that I'm unworthy, it is really because I care. I want to be better. I want to be worthy. So that yapping voice is telling me, you got to, you shouldn't, you know, that's all love in disguise. But if you don't recognize love behind it, you suffer.
Yeah. Yeah, it is all love in actuality. You may not seem like it, but it's all love, and everything that we do is actually based on that longing for connecting with that love, or being that love fully, or feeling that love and recognizing that love, I guess.
Kat was mentioning the dream. That's what Nonduality tells us. Realise you are dreaming a dream you call the world. That's all it needs to be realised.
Yes.
He says, and stop looking for ways out. The dream is not your concern. Your concern is you love one part of the dream and not the other. You should either love all of it or none of it, and the rest will be done for you by that same life essence that's enabling the dream to happen. We're looking for realisation, and then it tells you that that's all you need to realise. We don't see this world as a dream. But you go to sleep at night and you dream a dream. They can be in the mountains or the hills or on the water or in a shopping mall or in a house, anywhere at all in that dream. All sorts of things may be taking place in people or by yourself or whatever, everything taking place in the dream. You wake up and you realise your body hadn't moved off the bed. No words had come out of your mouth. And all those hills and mountains and shopping malls, whatever going on, all disappeared. There's only a vague memory of some of it. But what you don't realise is you're waking up to this dream. This is a waking dream. Because this dream, the difference between a dream at night and this dream seemingly has a continuity. It seemingly continues every night from where it left off the night before. And the mountains and hills and that are still there, where they've disappeared in the dream. All the things are still there as the dream carries on. But who's the dreamer? And what's the dream?
And as Nonduality says, there is no need to wake up from this dream, but there is a possibility to wake up to this dream. So you wake up from the daydream of the hallucinating different worlds and dramas and thinking and just daydreaming really into that dream, and you know it is the dream, and you know no need to wake up from it. Waking up from it will, when the body will go away, that will naturally happens. But in this moment now is well enough to wake up from the daydream to the present dream.
And that dreamed character is still taking place in that life essence that you are, which formed the body, which forms the brain, the heart, the lungs, and which are all these other things. The voice box and everything in the body that can take place. Otherwise, in its absoluteness, there's nothing, zero itself. So it needs to form the pattern, shapes and forms, as they call in the scriptures, Shiva Shakti. Shiva is the static aspect, the godliness. Shakti, the female aspect, is constant. Shakti dances or vibrates and the world appears. So it's always the dance of Shakti or the play of consciousness. All it is.
And all one, stillness and movement, they nod too. The silence and sound nods too.
You are the very essence that's forming it all.
Yeah.
It's the one essence that's pattern, shapes and forms, appearance, and expresses as everything. And that's all there is here, are things. You're a thing, I'm a thing, the tree's a thing, the flower's a thing. All appearing in that basic screen of no thing. Can something come from no thing? It can't. So it's all the seeming no thing appearing. Like they say, a phenomenal universe, that which appears to be. Enjoy.
Yeah. And also your mirror metaphor, like it's like we are mirrors, right? This appearance that's what we are illuminating, say, through this body mind. We have all these, we can hear and see, or hearing happens, seeing happens, and because there's nobody in there to hear and see, right? It's actually just hearing happens, seeing happens, and all that through the body. But then it's a miracle. This life is very miraculous, right? All these forms and colors and people and animals and nature and the universe is like, wow, it's just mind-blowing, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It could have been nothing, and in fact there really is nothing, because if you look closer, they all appearances, they all mirage, rainbows, they all just reflections. And how incredible.
Yeah.
Reflections, like reflections in the mirror, they're just images.
Yeah.
The psychologist says nothing can trouble you except your own imagination. What you are imaging in, what we're thinking, and that's the fact. If we're not creating these conceptual images, what's going to trouble you? Can you say it's good, bad, pleasant, painful, without relating to that image? And as you look in the mirror, you see an image in the mirror. Go up to the mirror, try and grab the image in the mirror. All you do is grab the glass. So you can't say it's there, but you can't grab it. You can't say
it's not there.
It's not there.
Yeah.
The same with all this manifestation. But we divide it up, and though it's vibrating in the pairs of opposites. So if it wasn't for day, there couldn't be night. It wasn't for silence, there couldn't be sound. Same time, we put the labels on, take the labels to breathe. Instead of saying it's vibrating constantly from one in those pairs of opposites, which are only labels, we're taking one end is right and the other end is bad or not so right, and dividing them. But instead of dividing them, he says, love all of it or none of it. You know, when you go to one end and realise it's going to change, it's going to come back eventually, because there's no thoughts stitched in your head. The thoughts come and go. There's nothing fixated or stitched there. So it's the same as life and everything else. So you're not divided at all. And so if you see that, instead of trying to get rid of it, the bad one, Realise it's going to change anyway. It's not going to stay bad all the way. It's just like same as out there in nature. Take it. Source is the natural state. What's happening in nature? Earth's rolling around the sun. At this moment here, where we are, the sun is facing, the earth is facing, roll around and facing the sun. So it's light. When it rolls around the other way, it'll be facing, this part will be facing away from the light, it'll be dark. Now, does the earth know anything about darkness and light? It doesn't, because the darkness is the absence of light, and light is the absence of darkness. They're not appearing for the moment, but they're still both there. The same with the seasons, the winter, the summer, the autumn. The spheres of opposites, and even in our thoughts, still thoughts are not there, but we focus on one to the exclusion of the other. But look at that. A thought comes up and you like it. Oh, I like this thought. And you realise that thought comes up because you don't know what your next thought's going to be. So the thought will appear. And realise there's no thinker of a thought. Thought comes up and I like it. How do you know? Well, I've had this before and it's good. And we don't want the good things to go. We want to keep them there. All our loved ones and this, that and the other, we don't want them to change. We want them to be there. Not realising it's transient. No matter how much you love them or want to keep them here, it's still going to change. If this starts to change, we don't want it to. What do? We resist it. We fight with it. Conflict. Resistance is conflict. And that conflict brings up the fear, the anxiety, the stress, all the psychological suffering comes up. Conflict, that we call that uneasiness. And another word for uneasiness is dis-ease. We are not at ease. So there's resistance, conflict, and disease going on. Something comes up and I don't like it. Oh, I shouldn't be thinking that. That's a bad thing. I'll be in trouble for thinking that. It's sinful and this, blah, blah. So what do? You fight it. You try to get rid of it. Same as you did the other. So you're in conflict with it. And the conflict is uneasiness, dis-ease. And instead of getting rid of it, it keeps it there in both ways. So they're thinking good or thinking bad. And as I tell you, there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So you can be rid of all that psychological suffering by recognising, it's just
prior to thinking.
Prior to thinking,
yeah. The thoughts appear, but they're not yours. They're not you. They're just part of functioning. Whether they're good thoughts or bad thoughts, they just like sweating or salivating or stomach acids, or they just whatever shows up. And if you recognize they're just part of the appearance, you're done away with it. You're actually kind of curious and entertained by them rather than swayed this way or the other. You're free.
Yeah, and the same with emotions or the feelings we have, and they also everything.
Yeah. The body responding to the environment and responding spontaneously to the spontaneous triggers. There would be 1,000 things, the hormones, the weather, all sorts of different things. And then suddenly you push the glass and it breaks and your outburst is outrageous. It is spontaneous. The other day, something was different. The hormones were low, or the weather was different, and the glass broke and was no reaction. It's always spontaneous. One could say, theoretically, you could write down the algorithm, but you would have like infinite amount of data to process. So it's totally one appearing through different channels and dancing with itself, creating the body and environment, which are completely inseparable, communicating with each other and creating responses. And thought is one of them. Thought is one way of responding. So how is it you or yours? How would that be any concern to imagine to you? Or is to be recognized that it doesn't really have to be personal. Nothing in life is personal, because person is the illusion, is the imagination. Waking up from the person and the personal is waking to the dream of miraculousness and marvelous mystery of that manifested world that is nothing.
Yeah, seeming doubts might come up. Ask yourself, who's doubting this? Obvious answer is me. I am. But then, hang a minute, I've looked into this me and I've seen it's false. I'll have another look and see if I was seeing correctly. You have another look and realise you are seeing correctly. The doubter is the fiction. What's it going to do then? It's going to disappear.
Mm.
Where does it leave you? Present and aware, which you've always have been, the absolute.
Yeah, you just look who is looking, and there is vastness of space behind your eyes. Or you feel, you may say, oh, me, this is the feeling of insecurity. But hey, is the feeling of insecurity really me? That feeling is not always there. I am prior to that feeling. Because I imagined that I was my insecurity or incompleteness or sense of longing. That was my illusion when I had my meeting with Bob nearly 6 years ago, and he was actually pointing me out of that dream. That I knew I wasn't the body because the body is changing. That was easy. I knew I wasn't the thoughts because thoughts are changing. That was easy. But that very intimate feeling of, but I am not good enough. I am poor me. I have been hurt. I have been this. That felt like it was so solid and so real. But in one instant, it opens up and it shows you that even the most intimate association with a set of feelings, of memories, is impermanent, is sometimes there and sometimes not. And you are witnessing consciousness. You are there, even when the image is not. You are there, even when the feeling is not. So you are obviously that witnessing consciousness prior to the thought, feeling, any idea of identification with the body, mind, thought, past, career, whatever it is, even gender, whatever it is, they all temporary because you pause the thought. Now I am a woman, I'm Polish. Now the thought is stopped for a moment and I still am. I'm not a woman or Polish because that requires a thought, but the existence is always there. And once you see it, even for a split moment, you see it, you resonate it with your heart. Of course, the habitually thoughts will come back, just like any other habits, they come back. This whole body-mind machinery is a construct with the software and hardware that works habitually on autopilot. But once it has been seen through from the core of your essence and not from the logic of the mind, it can be questioned and it can be seen through again. Mm.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here.
That's fun. That's a pleasure, pointing back to the natural state, because yeah, that's the nature.
Yeah, and thank you for all your pointers, you know, here now and in your books is very precious. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
if you resonate with them, they're yours.
They are, yes.
Yeah, thank you.